On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Okay, OU stuff. We've got Dillon Gabriel on watch lists and some recruiting ranking adjustments. The National College Football Roundup. We discuss what Greg Sankey had to say at SEC Media Days, and the Big 12 Pac-12 full merger is dead. We finish up with our winners and losers of the week. Please download and subscribe to the podcast. Rate it 5 stars and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right. Our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Wednesday, July 20th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games, with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack, blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And the Beats and Bites Festival is rolling, people. Scotty McCreery up next, July 30th. It's $5 general admission, and kids under 12 get in free. There'll be a ton of food trucks, all kinds of things for the kiddos to do, including face painting and an inflatable obstacle course. To buy tickets, visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Now, recording this Wednesday morning, please leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment while you're at it. Ted, how we doing, man?
I'm fantastic. Couldn't be better, actually.
Yeah, this was one of those situations where had a guest lined up. We were going to do it in the morning. Guest then decided, I got to hop on a flight. It'd be like that sometimes, man. So we're just going to knock it out. We're going to get it.
It's what happens when you schedule the high rollers, man. You never know when that flight to Vegas or wherever may pop up.
Yeah, but we will. It was Jordan Phillips, defense attack. We'll get Jordan on. We're gonna get that. But God, talk about a guy that's had a just kind of a quietly fantastic career. We'll get the big guy on. Don't worry.
He's knocking on the door. What, 8, 9 years, 10 coming up close?
Yeah, like 7 or 8, I think.
Yeah, he's done really well.
9,
really well.
I don't know. He's made a ton of money, but we'll get the big man on and make sure you tweet him. Say, hey, we want you. We want you, big guy. But okay, I do want to, before we get into some of it is watch list season, which you know how much I love watch list season. So we're going to dive into that for sure. But before we get into that, I do want to give people an update on the NIL entity, NIL company that Dusty Dvoracek and I have put together. It's called Strengthening Oklahoma, and we have signed 13 athletes as of this recording, right? And they're all football players. Had a photo shoot done for the website last night, and 12 of the 13 guys were there. One guy couldn't make it because he was sick, but got pictures of those guys, got group shots of those guys. And we are putting the final touches on that website that High Five Media is building for us. And I know the reason I bring it up, and I know I haven't given many updates on it, it's because we've wanted to be as thorough as possible with how we went about it. We have met with, compliance and all the right people along the way to make sure we're doing it by the book in exactly the right way. And the reason I bring it up is I know there's some other stuff popping up, and I know that people may only have the means to support one. Now, my hope is that you can support everything that these athletes are doing NIL wise, but I understand there are, there are financial limitations for some people. So the reason I bring it up is it's coming in the next week and a half. So if you want to be patient and hold off, and if you want to support some of your favorite athletes with their NIL opportunities and get some exclusive content from you, just know Strengthening Oklahoma is coming. I would say we are on the 2-yard line, Ted. We just got to punch it in.
That's good. That's good. The final 2 yards is the most important, right? You got to punch it in the zone. I know you guys will do it. That's awesome though, that it's coming together. I know it's probably a lot of hard work, especially navigating a system that is so new and so gray, right? There's difficult decisions probably to be made.
Yeah, which is why it really it's taken a lot of time. But I mean, last night we're doing the photo shoot. They're filling out direct deposit forms. They're filling out W-9s. I'm walking them through all of it. I'm just like, have you guys done any of this stuff? Like, it was so funny because I was passing out pins and I was thinking about the compliance meetings that I know you had. I know I had, where they're like, make sure you give the pins back because the pins are an extra benefit. You can't take the pins with you. Like, just think about where college football's gone from now, or from then to now. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's wild. I'm glad you guys are doing it though. Hey, it's a competitive market out there. And, with some of the stuff that we've seen, Kirby Smart was talking about 95 players on their roster have NIL deals. The Texas Tech situation, 25,000 to over 100 players on their roster a year. So it's competitive out there, and this is part of it. This is what you got to do to keep up with the big boys. Yeah,
and what I will say is, it is, what we are doing. It's true NIL. It's not. I mean, we're doing it the way that I believe it's supposed to be done, right? And we feel really, really good about what we've put together. So be on the lookout for that. It's coming. And I'm just saying, it's going to be cool. So if you can only spend your money on one thing, I would highly recommend it be strengthening Oklahoma. I'm just
there
saying.
You go.
Yeah, I have my bias, I suppose. But okay, let's jump into watch list season, right? Because I think Dillon Gabriel, man, his reputation and the expectations for him heading this season, it gaining steam, man. I mean, it absolutely gaining steam. And he was named to a couple of watch lists. He's on the Davey O'Brien watch list. And remember, and these are the Davey O'Brien Awards words, not mine. It is the oldest and most prestigious college quarterback award. Now, I think we would all say the most prestigious now is the Heisman, but hey, let the Davey O'Brien Awards say what they want. And he's also named to the Maxwell Award watch list, which is presented annually to the outstanding player in college football. Ted, just seeing him on these and kind of some of the conversations we're having about Dillon Gabriel now, it really feels like the expectations are building for him going into the year.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think, it's getting close to where the season for media and driving content and traffic and all those things with outlandish takes will soon start to dissolve, and people that want to be viewed a little more realistic are going to start to have some predictions that are maybe a little bit more in line with what you typically see. Like Oklahoma's impending death is probably going to be less talked about, and people are going to actually start to do a little research and figure out that, hey, you know what? I think whenever you look at Oklahoma's schedule, whenever you look at what some of these players have done and actually take a little deeper dive into, maybe what the transfer portal provided Oklahoma, not just what it took away, that I think you're going to see more stuff similar to this.
And I also think, with Big 12 media days and DG being in front of mics and more people being able to hear from him, but also more people being able to hear from Brent Venables. I think as well known as Brent Venables has been, as the defensive coordinator at Clemson and before that at OU, I don't think a lot of people have heard him talk a lot, right? And now, if you're a Clemson fan, I'm sure you've heard plenty. right? Because you're following your team really, really closely. But from a national perspective, you're not seeing a bunch of clips of Venables talk about football, talk about his mentality, talk about what he believes in. And now I think that more people have been exposed to Venables and what he's all about. And just some of these things he said, about toughness, about his expectation that they're going to play great defense this year. The things he said about Dillon Gabriel. Remember, quiet assassin, Ted?
Mm-hmm.
I think all of that is coming together to really, really build some hype around Dillon Gabriel and what he can be at the quarterback position this year.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I'll tell you what I think is still a real positive, in my opinion, for this football team headed into this year. And you're only going to get to do it once. It's only going to be this year. The conversation about what Dillon Gabriel is going to do and what Oklahoma is going to do, and what qualifies as a good season for Oklahoma, it continues to be built around the things that, in my opinion, don't matter. How many yards did Dillon Gabriel have previously? What production is coming back on their roster, and what production did they lose to the NFL in the transfer portal? These things don't matter. What matters is culture and how you play, the attitude in which you play, the attitude in which you practice and prepare. That is the single biggest factor on why Oklahoma is going to be more successful under Brent Venables than it was under Lincoln Riley. And no one's talking about that. And I think that's a good thing. They're expecting the same Oklahoma team that has shown up the last couple of years. And what we know about that team is they don't like to be punched in the mouth, right? They don't like whenever the battle is right there on the line of scrimmage and you come up and you pop them and you run the football at them and you stop the run whenever Oklahoma tries to run it. If you can turn it into a battle of wills, a battle of toughness, then Oklahoma is going to fold. That's what we've seen the last couple of years. That's why the Baylors, the Kansas States, the Iowa States, these teams have had success against us because that's their mentality. That is not going to happen anymore. You're not going to be able to beat Oklahoma that way. That's what I think is most exciting about the way people are predicting Oklahoma season's going to go.
Yeah, I don't think people are going to understand that until they see it.
Right.
Right. It's hard to think. And remember, this program's won a lot of games. I mean, Lincoln won a lot of games, a lot of Big 12 titles, but I think people will get it more when they're able to see it.
I agree.
When they're able to see the physicality of the football team, and you and I, we've seen it, right? Being out at spring practice, like we've seen the difference. And I think once some of these people that maybe don't understand that are exposed to it, they're going to go, oh, this is what Gabe and Teddy were talking about. We get it now.
Yep.
But it's just going to take people seeing it to believe it. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? We can talk about it all we want on here, but ultimately it's up to the coaches to get the players to play that way. And it's on the players to, execute what they're being coached.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's going to be pleasant because the great Oklahoma teams that you remember from the past, the great teams of the 70s, 80s, it's always been a mindset of you go out there and you absolutely physically dominate. And that's where your confidence comes from, not necessarily from the scoreboard, but what does the physical battle look like right there at the line of scrimmage? That's where the confidence should come from. And I think that's what this team's going to have.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Regarding the hype for Dillon Gabriel, did you see who Stanford Steve picked to win the Heisman?
I did.
And he picked Dillon Gabriel to win the Heisman. But I also think, and I don't know Stanford Steve. I wish I did. Never met him. Guy seems awesome. I mean, he's one of my favorite. Him and Scott Van Pelt. I love that combination. I think they're fantastic. But there is part of it. The guy is he's a gambling guy, right? So I think part of it, one of the things that factors into it is there's some value there for him. Like he sees some value in throwing that pick out. But really, if anyone saw it on SportsCenter, like his main reasoning seems to be the fact that Dillon Gabriel is reuniting with Jeff Lebby. He has that much faith in Levy. And I love that. No pressure, Levy. You got it, man.
I heard this audio clip and I had to laugh because it's whenever you hear him talk about it, it's as if he uncovered this little nugget that nobody knew about before. Where did Dillon Gabriel have all these yards and touchdowns? UCF. Who was his play caller? Jeff Lebby. It's like, oh my God, I didn't know that. Really?
What?
That's amazing. Okay, yeah, Oklahoma's going to win the Big 12 now. It was funny that I guess we do take it for granted a little bit. We know Jeff Lebby before he took the job here. Everyone, I say everyone, a big number of OU fans know his history, right? Where he started at Oklahoma, was in the Big 12 with Baylor on their rise, went to UCF, spent time with Josh Heupel. I mean, we followed his trajectory. And it's really the same thing with Venables. We're way more in tune with what Venables has done than what the rest of the country does. We're talking about two coordinators, and like it or not, coordinators aren't nearly talked about like the head coaches are. So we followed this and we think it's interesting and it's funny whenever people kind of stumble upon the history here. And it's kind of the same situation we've been telling people all along, and everyone just wants to talk about the transfer portal, right? So I had to laugh whenever he broke out that huge nugget of information that's been hiding from everyone.
Yeah, it was good. Hey, but once again, I think, that type of stuff is good. And I'm glad that Dillon Gabriel's he's got these high expectations building heading into the season, because I think he's a guy that can handle that. And one of the main reasons I know, like, he's not going to be phased about being on the Davey O'Brien Award watch list or the Maxwell Award watch list or being Stanford C's picked to win the Heisman. The reason I know he can handle all of that is because he takes care of his offensive lineman, baby. Did you see we talked about it? I don't know. I'm going to assume that Dillon Gabriel had the lake trip with the big guys planned before we talked about it here on the podcast, but some people have wondered if we manifested that into happening. I don't think that's the case. I think this was something that was planned in advance, but looks like he took him to Old Dirty Bird there, Lake Thunderbird in Norman, party bus transporting them some food. Like, that's how you take care of the guys protecting you on Saturdays. That's great leadership, Ted. He deserves all the awards for that.
There's no doubt about it. And what's really cool about that is, Dillon Gabriel's got an NIL deal with Norris Marine, which is right there in Norman. And, that was part of it, and how they, facilitated the boats and stuff like that. And I love that. Number one, you have these businesses in the community that are, stepping up to the plate and doing some of these things. And that's the way it's supposed to be done, right? You got local businesses that want to sign these guys to NILs. That's the way this thing was supposed to be laid out there. And what does he do with it? He doesn't pocket it. He makes everyone on the team, or everyone on the offense, rather, the big guys, feel like they're a part of it, right? Like, I've got this NIL deal. I'm going to share it with you guys the best way I can. So I think the whole deal was awesome.
Yeah. And remember, there's been this conversation over the last year about how would NIL stuff affect the locker room. This is a perfect example of how NIL dollars that are going mainly to a couple of guys can still be a big positive, right? Dillon Gabriel getting NIL money hasn't created, and remember, he hasn't played a game in an OU uniform.
Right.
He hasn't, but it hasn't created some divide within the locker room. It's brought guys closer together. They're doing fun stuff together, right? He had the dime time retreat. Now he's got, I don't know if this is dime time retreat 2 or big boy retreat. I don't know what this one's named, but it continues to show that I think Dillon Gabriel just gets it, man. I really do. And that he is using the NIL money that he is able to bring in to bring his team closer together. And that's cool to see, man. It's cool. And don't forget, remember, he gave back to his high school back in Hawaii. Like, he's doing all kinds of positive things. So for as many negative storylines are out there about NIL, right? The recruiting inducement piece of it. These recruits, some recruits reportedly getting $8 million, $9 million, like that type of stuff. Like, NIL, when it's done the way that it was supposed to be intended to do, it's great, man. It can have some seriously positive effects on teams, on communities. And I'm a person, I really don't care about the recruits getting money. I don't. But I just think we need to continue to shed light on these positive NIL stories, because I feel like the recruiting inducement piece of it is really dominating the name, image, and likeness headlines.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. The only thing I really have to add is don't forget about the defense, baby. Don't forget about the defense. They're going to be getting you the ball back, Dillon. So take care of those guys too. Now, they don't need much. Maybe a couple of hamburgers, maybe some steaks. I don't know that you've got to really take them out and do too much, but you got to make sure the defense is part of it as well.
You want to hear something that's going to make you really happy?
Yeah.
And I'll continue to talk about the strengthening Oklahoma stuff on here. I will. I think, and once again, it's not associated with OU in any way, but I do think that you'll love to know that 8 of our 13 guys, 8 of those 13 football players play defense.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's money right there. That's good. That's good. You got to take care of the
I'm
defense.
taking care of you, Ted, in the
That's
defense.
Awesome. That's great. That's how it's supposed to be, man.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Yeah. My one takeaway from, the video, and whoever Dillon Gabriel's video guy is doing a great job for him. Those videos they're putting out are sweet. The one thing that stood out, did you see Tyler Guyton, bro? In the pictures?
Was he the one that was like hitting the backflips and stuff off of the boat?
Yeah. And remember, when I talked to BV at Big 12 Media Day, and I asked him about position battles heading into camp, OL was the first position he mentioned, and Tyler Guyton was the first guy he mentioned, saying, hey, our tackles better watch out. He's coming. And boy, does he look the part. I mean, he looks like an absolute specimen in those pictures.
That's great. I love it. That's what you got to have, man. You got to win that line of scrimmage. And, I think Harrison, just listening to you, the way Anton Harrison came along in the spring, Wanye Morris with Schmidt in getting his body in line, getting his power and getting in better shape. Like, it's not like those guys have been stagnant, right?
No.
It sounds like there's been really big improvement made by those guys. And the fact that you still got a guy like Guyton chomping at their heels, that's awesome.
And not only there's the physical development that's gone on with Anton Harrison and Wanye Morris. No doubt that's really important. But along the lines what you're saying about the culture, that's been, from what I understand from the conversations I've had, that's been the biggest change with those guys, is taking it more seriously. Understand it like, hey, how important it is, like what it means to step on the field, like how important it is, especially to be the guy that runs out there first as a starter, and just what it looks like on a snap in and snap out basis, like the consistency it takes. And I think that's been the biggest change from what I've gathered about those guys is it's the mentality. Like it's been a big shift in how seriously they take it and how good they want to be, if that makes sense.
No, that's right. And here's the effect of that. It sounds like there's been, I mean, almost everyone we hear about has embraced that mindset. We've heard Venables, right? He said it at media day that they've made it really hard on him and there's been zero pushback. He expected there to be some, but the buy-in has been amazing, zero pushback. And what that means is whenever you start to have guys take it that seriously and invest that much in it, whenever you don't, you stick out like a sore thumb, right? So you better begin to lock in. You better start to get your stuff in order. Whenever it comes to the strength and conditioning, I mean, that's where it all usually rears its ugly head, is who's investing the time, who's putting in the effort, who's fighting through. Because whenever you don't, you stick out to the rest of the guys that are sitting there working out and in the fire with you. So the fact that you're hearing it from so many guys is awesome.
Yeah. Okay. We got a little recruiting news. Now there haven't been any more commitments since our last episode, but we did mention, hey, some rankings are going to change, right? These big recruiting services like Rivals, 24/7 Sports, On3, they are redoing their rankings currently, and everything. And once again, recruiting rankings aren't everything, but I believe they're really important to the fan base, and it's important for us to acknowledge some of the changes that have been happening. So with some of the adjustments, and all the adjustments haven't been made yet, but just with the adjustments that have been made up to this point, OU now has the 9th ranked class in the 24/7 Sports composite. So to think about where Oklahoma was late June, where the mentality of the fan base was when it came to recruiting in late June to now, them having the 9th ranked class, that's something, man.
It is. It's been less than a month since we had the panic-stricken recruiting fan base that was basically saying Oklahoma's done. Brent Venables can't recruit. They can't get any commitments. His plan of how he does the commitments, don't commit here if you're going to take other visits, is stupid. There's no way you can recruit like that. All of those takes are now starting to look ridiculous, because not just have they climbed all the way up to the number 9 spot, it's going to continue to get better. Some of the reclassifications were great. They're going to continue to get better. Some of these guys that they have commitment, these classifications for these guys, and they're going to continue to get more and more commitments. And especially on the defensive side, whenever you see who they're winning these recruiting battles against, it's pretty telling.
Yeah. And, you look at Jackson Arnold, right? He goes out to the Elite 11, wins the MVP there, and now he's a composite 5-star. He's up to the number 21 player in the class in the 24/7 Sports composite, and 24/7 Sports actually has him as their number 15 player. And I know we've talked about this quite a bit, but it's so important to have that big time quarterback in a class that everyone can kind of rally around. And I love, yeah, that's a great way to put it. He's the anchor, and he's an outspoken anchor too, right? You see it on social media. He's recruiting guys left and right. And the fact that he's now, because let's be real, it really matters that he's got 5 stars next to his name. Whether you believe it's that important or not, it is. I'm telling you, it is. When other kids get contacted by Jackson Arnold and they know he's got those 5 stars next to his name, that carries a lot of weight amongst his peers. So the fact that he's now got that recognition across the board, that's really important for OU's 2023 recruiting class.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And what was it? He's up to, I think this is per 24/7, the number 3 quarterback. Is that right?
Yeah, I seen he's like number 3, number 5, and some other places. Like he's one of the top quarterback recruits in the country, right?
And
He's a
here's the
5-star
thing.
QB.
He's ranked behind some guys that he beat in that Elite 11 for like the MVP. Now, you get into what are some guys' different ceilings and stuff like that, which point is he's in a really good spot. And like I said, man, I think that it's not just the quarterback, but that's where you got to have that anchor. There's some other guys that are going to be flying up those rankings as, you know, they play this final season of their career and maybe even before that.
Yeah. Speaking of flying up rankings, PJ Adebawore. Whoa. I mean, so there was that Future 50 event. He was the trench MVP of it last weekend. And I was looking at On3 stuff earlier today. He's a 5-star for them. He is now On3's number 7 player overall, which, I mean, that is, I mean, just a ridiculous rise when it comes to his ranking, but he's up to, I think, number 48 on 24/7 Sports. Somehow he's still in the 85 range in the composite ranking. I'm sure that will be updated as all the services get their new rankings out. But man, he's got to be one of the biggest climbers in this entire recruiting class, right? We went from not really knowing who the kid was a couple weeks ago to he's On3's number 7 player overall. I mean, and now everyone's looking at like, oh my gosh, Oklahoma got, I mean, not only did they get a guy, they may have gotten the guy off the edge in this recruiting class.
Yep. And, you know, I think maybe part of that is where he's from. You know, the Kansas City area is not what you would call a typical hotbed, but as more people have seen him and he's hit some of these different camps and stuff, yeah, his stock is skyrocketed. And again, I think he's another one of those guys, just like you mentioned, that's going to continue to rise. The dude he's still got, you know, what, 6-8 months before if he's an early arrival, before he really shows up and we hear much about him. If and when he continues, you know, he signs and finishes off the deal, but already what, 6'4", 245 or so. And he's probably going to be a guy that gains another 8-10 pounds over that time. I mean, he's in the range of when your body really starts to come together and you start to put on muscle. So the guy's going to continue to improve. What was it? His brother's like 260, right?
Yeah, I think 265 when I looked up, because remember I looked up the pronunciation on the Northwestern website because that's where his brother's at. But I was trying to think of an edge guy that I felt had the ceiling just physically that OU has signed that this kid has. When you just look at his body and the physical traits, and the potential that he has with where he's at now. And remember, I was reading about him and he only played defense like for the first time last year.
Right.
Like, this is a guy that's got a ton of untapped potential when you talk about the technique of playing the edge position. I mean, he's just an absolute physical freak. So I get why so many people are so excited about this dude, including the coaching staff. The coaching staff is giddy about what this guy can be.
Yeah. And I had talked to a couple of recruiting folks that are kind of in the know about him, but whenever he was a somewhat unknown, and I heard someone say that they think he is the best edge guy, and it's clearly a 5-star best edge guy in this class, or one of. So this is, it's one of those names out there that maybe didn't grab a lot of attention early on, but now that people have started to see it, and he made the headlines with the commitment, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, now I'm starting to see it. So no, I love it, and I love that we're getting those guys on the defensive side, man.
Yeah, no pressure, Miguel Chavis. I'm only expecting him to be like the next Javon Curse or Jason Pierre-Paul. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, whenever it comes to edge, the names that get thrown out are always like,
Hall of Fame players.
Once in a lifetime players.
Yeah. No. A couple other ranking updates. Caden Green, big offensive tackle from the KC area. He's up to the number 78 player in the 24/7 Sports Composite. He was also at that Future 50 event, and I think he was really, really impressive for a lot of people. And then I don't think his ranking changed much, Ted, but did you see that video of Lewis Carter covering that running back on that wheel route?
I did not. I need to find that.
Okay. I believe because, and actually a Kansas State fan sent it to me because the back he's covering is like Kansas State's prized recruit in the class, kid named Dylan Edwards. And a lot of people wanted him. I think OU recruited him really, really hard as well. But Lewis Carter is running step for step with this guy on a wheel route and breaks it up. And it basically is going to be like you injecting drugs into your veins when you see it.
I love it. It's good. He's in good position. He's right behind, right in the hip pocket, turn, locate the ball, go up, high point it. Just pick that ball off, man. Just go ahead and pick it off. But what I
not good enough for Lehman.
Well, I mean, you can't ever not see the there's always got to be a coaching point, right? There's always got to be a coaching point. But I think what I really like is, and you talked about his upper body strength, you can see just how like physically put together that dude already is.
Yeah. I think he is. Remember, he's the leader for me for favorite guy in the 2023 class. I mean, there's still time, long way till signing day, but he's my early favorite. Okay, let's get to call your shot. And we asked you guys, what was the most important thing that happened for OU football in these last couple days? This first one comes from Corey Reedy, who says, Dillon Gabriel yet again, showing what an awesome leader he is by taking the big uglies to the lake. First of all, big uglies, relax, Corey, relax. But he says, looks like they had an amazing time in those bonds that are being created, will last a lifetime, but will also pay huge dividends on the field this fall. And okay, I agree. And I think some people may see that and say, okay, how much does that really matter? And just with my experience, man, it matters. It matters. And the best example I can give is my senior year. And I'm not trying to say that, you know, I played the same way no matter who was at quarterback, right? I need to take care of what I was doing. Like, you can't really worry, but Blake Bell was one of my best friends. And I'd be lying if I didn't say like I'm not saying it meant more to me to protect him as opposed to Trevor Knight, but yeah, it felt a little different because he was one of my best friends. Now I was playing the same way, but it was, I don't know how to describe it. It just feels different. You know what I mean? When you really feel like a guy, you know, a guy super well, he cares about you. And once again, Trevor was a great dude, but these linemen, having that experience with Dillon Gabriel, they're not going to want to let that guy down. That's just human nature. You know what I mean? That's just whether I know people want to think that football players are robots and like, no, you do the same stuff no matter what. That's just not real life. And the fact that Dillon Gabriel did this for that guy, like that matters. And they're going to remember that. They're not going to forget that. And they're not going to want to let him down.
Yeah. Anytime you're talking about a team dynamic, it doesn't matter if it's football, baseball, basketball. It doesn't matter if it's a small business, a large business, whatever it may be. The chemistry, the group chemistry matters. And you're always going to perform better as a group whenever you like one another, when you care about one another, whenever everyone knows that everyone else is deeply invested. So I totally agree.
Yeah. This other one comes from Spencer Steele, who says Texas having the best betting odds to win the Big 12. I guess that is important for OU, and I'm sure it's different. I've seen OU as the favorite a lot of places. I'm sure there's places where Texas is the betting favorite, but yeah, Spencer, anytime, give Brent Venables all the ammunition you can give him because he's going to use it, right? I think it's been proven when it came to the preseason All Big 12 team, not having any OU guys on it except for Turk, and then Baylor being the preseason media poll favorite there in the Big 12. Like, he's going to use everything he can use as motivation. So if Texas is out there as the betting favorite some places, I'm sure it'll be brought up.
Hey, I can't tell people where to put their money. And if they want to put it on Texas to win the Big 12, go ahead. But the fact, I don't know if it's people just being willfully ignorant of what's going on or what it is, but this team was 5-7 last year. They've got good players, but those good players, all of them went 5-7 last year. Okay, they've got Quinn Ewers. He's never played quarterback in big time college football aside from maybe a handful of snaps whenever Ohio State was up by 50. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. There may be some wild chance that he blows it out of the water and is a once in a generation type of talent. Odds are it's going to be probably more of the same at the quarterback position at Texas. So do what you want with your money. I can't stop you, but just look at the track record. They've had five 7-loss seasons in what? 11, 12 years.
Wow. It's almost impossible to believe, but it is what it is, man.
It is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Birthday shout outs. Happy 2nd birthday to my niece, Rosie Ikard. Happy birthday, Rosie.
Happy birthday, Rosie. Happy 6th birthday to Will Crutchfield.
Happy 11th birthday to Silas Linduff.
Happy 31st birthday to Drew Engel.
Happy 33rd birthday to Parker Burnett.
Happy 49th birthday to Joel Sooner Magic Man.
And a couple late additions. Happy 31st birthday to Morgan Priest. And happy birthday and 10th anniversary to Melissa Jernigan. All right, let's get to the National College Football Roundup. Greg Sankey had some things to say. But first, the only place to stop when you're road tripping is Love's Travel Stops. Love's has over 600 locations in 41 states, offering 24-hour access to clean and safe places. Whatever your road trip needs are, Love's has it. Fuel, fresh food, all the snacks and drinks, including, yes, my favorite, Java Amore. That coffee is fantastic. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones. They've expanded their mobile to-go zone so you can grab any of that stuff there. Make sure you download the Love's Connect app for exclusive offers from today's most popular brands. The Love's Connect app also includes a route planner and store locator. When you see that red neon heart on the highway, stop in and say hi at Love's Travel Stops. For a full list of what Love's has to offer, visit loves.com.
Opolis Clothing is the exclusive home for all of our Oklahoma Breakdown merchandise. If you want to live your life in buttery soft comfort, go to opolisclothing.com. That's OPOLIS clothing.com and use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off your entire order. We just got one in here recently, so the It Ain't Good Enough shirt.
Looks good. Your neck looks thick in that one.
Yeah, I had a special order. Give me one with a tight neck. But you still get a discount, remember, on all the OU and OKC Thunder gear as well. opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
And make sure you send your kids to Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School. Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School has a long tradition of educational excellence. With a 12-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, no student is overlooked. Bishop McGinnis's college prep curriculum offers 22 AP courses. There are numerous clubs and organizations for students to join. And as a proud member of the OSSAA, there are 14 sports offered. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org. Remember, financial aid is available. All right, National College Football Roundup, SEC Media Days this week. And really, Greg Sankey and the things he had to say, kind of the highlights for me. So wanted to get into that. He was talking from that podium with his chest puffed out. And I would say displayed some serious confidence. And one of the things he said that stood out to me, Ted, was he said the SEC, they're not going to panic because the Big Ten added UCLA and USC. He got a nice jab in there about the footprint of their conference actually making sense, which I thought was pretty good. But I think that he feels very confident in the SEC's current position. That being said, he said, hey, we're monitoring everything, but seems like Sankey feels pretty good about where the Southeastern Conference is moving forward.
Yeah, and I agree with him. I think Texas and Oklahoma are way better than USC and UCLA. I know I just talked about how bad Texas has sucked over the last decade. It's true, but so have UCLA and USC. Oklahoma's actually been really relevant. So, and I do think that the footprint matters. Everyone is drooling at the mouth over the West Coast untapped potential with college football fans, but I don't know. I think that can be really difficult to re-engage that group with college football. We'll see what happens, but yeah, Sankey sounds like he believes that the SEC is in a really good spot, which, it makes you feel good about the current situation. It also makes you wonder, what does he have up his sleeve that we don't know about right now?
Yeah. But he's saying this, but what's he scheming up? Yeah. That part of me felt that way as well. But one of the other things he talked about that clearly is still bothering him is the fact that the college football playoff expansion didn't happen. And I think he was trying to send a message saying he'd be fine with no automatic qualifiers. Hey, just give us the best teams, right? Whether it's 4 teams, 8 teams, 12 teams, let's just do the best teams. Because he said it, and this has been his message all along, is that, conference champions getting automatic bids, that was a compromise from the SEC. And it was a compromise they were willing to make. And it was a compromise that the alliance rejected. So, I mean,
they pretty much rejected everything. Right? They didn't want any proposal thrown forward.
Yeah. And as far as college football playoff expansion, and I truly believe Greg Sankey wants what is best for the whole of college football, or at least maybe not the whole, maybe as many people as possible. I do think he sounds like a guy that may be over compromising at this point, like with the situation that they're in, with how much leverage it feels like the SEC's got.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The interesting thing and what I don't know is, what do they say about the potential revenue of these different scenarios? Right. Just my instinct is that the college football playoff has been really good. Now the viewership has dwindled as they've gone on because it's the same teams every year, right? And the novelty of it has slowly faded away. That first college football playoff was like the greatest thing ever. So that's faded a bit, but I still believe that the more teams you get in, the better it is for college football. And I also think the more teams you get in from different regions, the better. You need to engage everyone. That's why the automatic qualifier, it's not the perfect system. And I understand that if you win the AAC, it's not the same as winning the SEC. I'm not an idiot. I understand that. But I also understand that it needs to have some type of fairness to it. If you win your conference and there's a playoff, there needs to be some type of tie-in. And I think it's so much better for the entirety of college football if you engage. The more fan bases you engage, the better it is. You know, there's not a perfect way to do it. I mean, there's no exact line as to who the best 12 teams are. I mean, there's just not. You can argue about that every single year because there's so many teams and so many, like there's not hardly any crossover from conferences. Like when you're talking about Power 5, each of the big dogs usually has like maybe one crossover with another Power 5 in a non-conference game. Like that's not enough to actually really determine who the best 12 teams are.
Yeah, and I heard Saban talk about it with Josh Pate of 24/7 Sports, where he would like there to be some type of RPI system, where I guess, you know, the net ranking, right? The college basketball uses, where you're not necessarily punished for playing a really good schedule, right? Like that is weighted into your ranking. Like even if you lose against a good team, you know, like you don't get rewarded for losing, but you don't get punished severely for scheduling really good teams and then, you know, losing some of those games. But that would be awesome if we could get to that point. And some people want to point out, well, wasn't that kind of like the BCS? I mean,
well, a lot of people, that's what I was just about to say. A lot of people would like to take the old BCS formula and just have that predict your 8 or 12 or whatever playoff teams.
Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, it was interesting hearing Sankey talk about that. And you mentioned that he did not hesitate when asked, hey, is the SEC better with Oklahoma and Texas than the Big Ten now that they've added UCLA and USC? He said yes real quickly. And he was asked about the possibility of OU and Texas going to the SEC early, and he said it's not up to him. It's up to OU and Texas and the relationship with the Big 12. And Joe Castiglione and Chris Del Conte were quoted this week as saying, hey, the plan is making the move in 2025. So that's still the messaging we're getting, Ted. I don't see any way how OU and Texas aren't in the SEC in 2024, but with what Sankey and Castiglione and Del Conte have said, that is what we are still led to believe. 2025 is the year.
And I wouldn't expect them to say, like, if the announcement is made or leaked or whatever within the next 10 days, I wouldn't expect Josie or Del Conte to answer a question any differently than they did. Right.
Right.
It's just how you have to do it whenever there's a lot of legalese going on and tens of millions of dollars on the line in negotiations. Like you can't go in and undercut that process. And here's the fact of the matter. Like I've heard there's a whole lot of smoke coming from a bunch of different places that this is OU's last year in the Big 12. I have a tendency to believe that, but I also have the thought that I feel like is realistic and probably true that Joe C maybe doesn't even know right now. He probably has a leaning and there's some negotiations going on, but he may not even know for sure when it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, you know, thinking about other highlights at SEC media days, and they're still going on as we're recording, but did you see that video of our boy Shane Bieber dancing to Soulja Boy?
Oh yeah.
Man, he's the best. He is the best. That was awesome. And then Nick Saban he made it pretty damn clear he's not retiring anytime soon. Sorry, everybody. But he also dropped a little nugget that Alabama players made over $3 million in NIL money last year. That's a lot of cash, man. That's a lot.
I think as far as the coaching aspect of it goes, do you remember when Hugh Freeze was calling plays or watching his team from the hospital bed up in the press box?
It's impossible to forget that.
I think Nick Saban will be coaching his team either from the press box in a hospital bed or from a retirement community via Zoom or something. He's not going to retire. And he basically said as much. What would I do if I retire? Like, what would I do?
What do you want from me? Yeah. Gosh, yeah, he is. He when he speaks, it continues to mean a lot. And there's a lot being written about what Saban said at SEC Media Days. Okay, the other big story probably right now in college football, the full merger or the potential full merger of the Big 12 and the Pac-12. Well, that's dead. Several reports out there that talks between the Big 12 and the Pac-12 has ended with the Big 12 saying, no, thanks. We don't have any interest in a full merger. And for me, that signals that Brett Yormark probably looked at the full merger option and was like, no, I'm just going to go try and take the teams that I want from your conference. Now, whether that's 4 Pac-12 teams, 6 Pac-12 teams, we'll see. But I do think the Big 12 can't just stand with what it's got. I do think it needs to add, even if those additions, when you look at the balance sheet, don't bring more value to the league right now. I know it seems like you should only add teams if they bring more money in for you in this next media rights agreement. I understand that. But I think the Big 12 and Brett Yormark, they need to be focused clearly on the new media rights deal they're about to negotiate, but they need to understand the big picture and kind of the long-term picture. If you add Pac-12 teams now, that weakens the Pac-12. And I think down the line, destroying the Pac-12 as we know it makes the Big 12 more valuable. So it's almost addition by subtraction situation where you may not reap those benefits now, but I think we can all agree live sports is going to continue to be very, very important to television networks and streaming services. If you can kill the Pac-12 now, even though it may not seem like the smart business move now, it could have some serious benefits in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about it, because I think it's insane the way the Pac-12 is going about business. But I also understand, like, if you're the Pac-12 commissioner, are you going to negotiate your own demise? You know what I'm saying? You don't survive a Big 12 Pac-12 merger. It's in no interest for you to negotiate the destruction of what you have. So it's going to be hard to get the Pac-12 to agree to a merger where they're swallowed up by another conference. I get that. But the university presidents and athletic directors have to be looking at one another and saying, man, we better figure out a dance partner pretty quick. Because when you have Phil Knight openly cold calling everyone in college football trying to get Oregon out of the Pac-12, all it takes is someone to say, yeah, okay, we'll take Oregon and Washington or whatever. And it's dead. It's over. It's done. So you better figure out something now, because it's going to happen eventually. I think that what is it? Would you like to see the Big 12, if they picked some teams off, the Arizona schools, Utah and Colorado? Is that a good place to start?
Be awesome. That's now getting Oregon and Washington would be ideal, right?
Seems like that's going to be it's not going to be possible.
Yeah, no, we'll see. But I do think it's in the best long-term interest of the Big 12 to add teams. Even if they don't bring you a ton of value now, surviving this round of realignment needs to be the main goal of the Big 12. Securing your place as one of the 3 or 4 big time conferences, because the ACC is not going anywhere. They're locked in that TV deal, right? And now we'll see if some of those teams try to get out of that grant of rights. That would take some serious lawyering, but
I don't know. It's interesting whenever you talk about the grant of rights, because like the networks, I feel like they want to play ball too and get all of this sorted out. And it's a disaster, but I think a lot of that's just kind of up to the networks and what proposals sound okay for some of those things to dissolve.
Yeah, I don't think ESPN's going to do the ACC a solid, though. They've got them locked into what now we know is a bad deal for the ACC. What would ESPN's motivation be to throw them a bone? I don't know.
No, that's true. I guess only if they thought whatever the new situation is, provides more revenue, and maybe that's not possible considering the time and the factors of the ACC deal currently.
Yeah, and then Notre Dame, really, that what they do still seems to be the thing that could shake everything up. And Dennis Dodd put a report out that Notre Dame would stay independent if they can get up to $75 million annually from NBC, which seems like wishful thinking, because I believe I read they're bringing in $22 million annually right now. That's it's a pretty substantial difference, but NBC, in order to get Notre Dame to that type of number, remember Notre Dame's been on NBC since the early 90s. So they've, it's been a long-term relationship there that I'm sure both parties want to make work, but NBC would have to add more games that would be, games before Notre Dame's, games after Notre Dame games. And it seems like there's some indication that the Big 12 could be what they're after. And maybe the key to all of it is just timing, because Notre Dame's NBC deal up 2025. The Big 12's media rights deal is up 2025. So the timing of that could make a lot of sense, but I just don't know. How would you feel about Big 12 football and Notre Dame? Like, does that lead to a partnership between the Big 12 and Notre Dame somehow? I don't know, but it would. I think it'd be a great thing for the Big 12 to be lumped into whatever package Notre Dame would have with NBC. It seems like that would be a big positive for the Big 12.
Well, at a minimum, it's a big positive for them that they're at least part of that negotiation or part of that talk, right?
Right.
Whenever you've got other options, it's ultimately going to make the deal that you get from whoever it might be, ESPN, Fox, whatever. It's going to make it better. The bidding war has to start. And so Notre Dame, they've been locked into that 22 million number for a long time, right? So
yeah, I think it was actually, I believe I read it was 15 and then the contract's backloaded. So now they're getting 22.
I think they're going to break the bank.
I do too. Massive brand.
I don't think 75 million. When Vanderbilt's going to get 75 million being locked in with the SEC.
But remember, they value, and their alumni value them being independent a lot.
No,
so
I'm just saying though, that like with some of these other schools, and I know they're tied into these conferences, but right, that means that the Alabamas, Georgias of the SEC are worth hundreds of millions, and the Vanderbilts, the lower rung teams are worth, like, whenever they are meeting at the 75, like, that tells you that there's a lot of wiggle room on the top end of that number. And that's why I think 75 million is, I don't think it's outlandish at all for Notre Dame.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, they are, I feel like they're the key domino in whatever is about to happen next year.
And the other part is, like, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, everyone is salivating at adding Notre Dame to their conference. So the fact that they've also got the card that, yeah, well, we may not stay independent with you, like, that's also something that they've got as a negotiating tool as well. It's like, we could get, 75, 80 million over here pretty easy and, just be a guaranteed deal. So they've got a lot of options. So yeah, good place to be in.
Yeah, there's no doubt. All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the week. But first,
it's time to get back out on the golf course, and there's nothing better to drink on the course than the #1 seltzer in golf, Clubby Seltzers. Clubby Seltzers is an Oklahoma company that is already winning national awards because their product is delicious. It tastes exactly like a club special, but it's a seltzer. They're not just for the golf course either. They're perfect to drink by the pool, after mowing the lawn, whatever. If you haven't tried Clubby Seltzers yet, go grab some. You won't regret it. The variety pack is out. Bunch of great flavors in there. If you want to find a place near you that has Clubbies, visit clubbyseltzers.com.
And attention, business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Yeah, you do. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Insurica's clients become best-in-class businesses by working with Insurica's team of advisors to manage risk. Purchasing insurance is only one way to protect your business. Best-in-class businesses win by avoiding loss in the first place. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. I'm an Insurica client, and you should be too. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com.
Are you looking to buy or sell a house in the OKC metro area? Use the Ronaldo Cloud Group. Stacia Ronaldo and Maddie Cloud are with Sage Sotheby's International Realty. They believe in prompt communication, an honest relationship, and luxury service. And that's exactly what they gave Gabe. They sold a house for Gabe. They found a house for Gabe's brother. They found a house for Lane Johnson. We can't recommend them enough. You can reach out by calling or texting Stacia at 918-671-6450, or you can contact them on Instagram at @SoldByStacia and @SoldByMaddie_.
As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
I had to go with Will Anderson. Listening to him at SEC Media Day, wow. Number one, the NIL situation. He's had some NIL opportunities that have popped up, and it's made, like, the whole worrying about the NFL thing be a back burner for him. And I think that's incredibly important. I think whenever everyone's talking about, like, your NFL opportunities and where you may be drafted, your status, I think that has a tendency to creep into what you do a little bit. And the fact that he's been able to start his own brand, what is it, A3, and then let the NIL stuff take care of himself, his family, and get that foot forward there, where all you can do is focus on football. All you have to do is focus on football, I think has been awesome. He's been studying a lot of NFL pass rushers, been studying Derek Thomas, who had the incredible, 27 sack season there at Alabama. And there's been a lot of comparisons made between those two guys, and I don't think that's very far off base. Another thing, Gabe, that I saw, he was already gigantic, lean, fast. He's put on 10 pounds since then of lean muscle, still has the same type of get off and even better strength. So I think our boy Will Anderson there at Alabama is about to have an incredible season.
There's one player, one defensive player on the Maxwell Award watch list. Any guess who it is?
Yeah, they're going to go ahead and have the ceremony before the season. Yeah, he may win the Heisman.
He talked about it. He said, he feels a responsibility to kind of represent defensive players. And that's a goal. Like, he wants to win the Heisman. Did you, and I know how much you love Will Anderson. I know how much we love Will Anderson just because of the player he is. Like, he's so fun to watch. But did you hear what he said when they asked him about sitting out and just getting ready for the draft?
I didn't.
He said, can't do that. I love football too much.
Yeah. Well, I think that's
refreshing to hear.
Right. Well, I think that's one of the things about him he is really just as impressive whenever you hear about his work ethic and, like you said, how much he loves the game. And he's a guy that seriously checks every single box. And yeah, I'm excited to watch him, see what type of season he has. He's been watching, what was it? Was it Myles Garrett that he talked to Myles Garrett and Joey Bosa, or was it Von Miller? It was Von Miller or Garrett, one of the two, but kind of watching some of their pass rush moves and has added some of those to his toolbox. So he's going to be tough. That week 2 matchup in Austin, Texas is going to be interesting.
Oh, well, not only is that one going to be interesting, but they asked him about Jimbo Fisher and what he said about Nick Saban, right? And it was maybe my favorite quote of the day, and I wrote it down. Will Anderson said, when we play Texas A&M, everything will be addressed there. Which can you imagine being one of those Texas A&M tackles and be like, thanks, Jimbo. Appreciate you, coach.
That's
awesome.
Great. Let's go ahead and just punch up the billboard material as much as we can before we they are going A&M. It's rare that you wake up a fan base that has had as much success as Alabama's. It's hard to get up for every game. A&M is going to be going into a hornet's nest in Tuscaloosa.
Oh my gosh. That's one game I would love if I could be there. Oh my gosh.
It's the same day as OU Texas again, right?
Yeah, it's going to be insane, but there's nothing like OU Texas. All right, who do you have as your loser of the week?
I had to go with Mike Tyson. Interesting quote from Mike Tyson. He believes that his death is near. So I hated to hear him say that. He looks at himself in the mirror and says that his expiration date is coming close really soon, he says. Now, part of it is he's had a couple of experiences with some psychedelics, some toad venom, and it has him at least embracing the thought of his own death, of being a beautiful experience. But nonetheless, it can't be good that you're starting to foresee your own death drawing very near, right?
I've never had a psychedelic experience, but I'd like to think if I have one that I would have happy hallucinations, not ones where I'm dying.
Well, that's part of it, though. He's dying, but he's learned that death is beautiful. So there you go. I don't know. The psychedelic thing is interesting. There's a lot of research going on in that department right now. Have you seen the Real Sports thing on the NFL guys doing it that have
like the microdosing stuff?
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
That have had brain issues, possible CTE, a lot of depression, a lot of suicidal thoughts and stuff, guys kind of spiraling, and have gone to the psychedelic deal and claim that it's been life-changing.
Yeah. And there's some guys, especially some of the older players, NFL guys that have some trauma from their playing days. And if that route helps them out, man, hell yeah. I think that, as us being, former players and, part of that NFL brotherhood, you want to see these guys live productive lives. And if they need some psychedelics to help them out, man, I'm all for it. Give them all to those guys.
Let's start the tie-dye, NFL tie-dye jersey day. Psychedelic day is like day in November. Everyone's got the tie-dye jerseys.
Yeah. When you brought Mike Tyson up, I thought you were going to bring up I think it's on Hulu, his little biopic that Hulu's doing. It comes out in August. So I don't love the timing, but that's going to be cool.
Yeah.
I find Mike Tyson to be a pretty fascinating human.
He is, he's had a lot of, he looks at himself way differently than he used to. And it's interesting to hear him talk about his life, his experience, his regrets, his, just his story. He's interesting. He's still crazy as shit, but he's interesting.
He is. All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first,
First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all, whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone. Everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. First Fidelity Bank provides free ATMs worldwide, making banking convenient wherever you are. They also give back to the community. FFB donates a total of more than $500,000 to local charities and educational foundations. Make your life easier and go bank with First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information.
And if you're a whiskey or bourbon drinker, stop what you're doing. Head to your favorite liquor store and buy some Balcones products. You got to grab some of Balcones Lineage single malt whiskey. It was just voted one of the top 20 whiskeys in the world by Whiskey Advocate, and you'll be shocked by how affordable it is. Also, you got to snag some of Balcones Baby Blue Corn whiskey.
It's made from blue corn. That's the fancy corn.
And that is why it has won more than 25 awards. Last but certainly not least, you got to buy some of Balcones Pot Still Bourbon. Its big flavors make it the perfect bourbon to drink year-round. Remember, in 2012, Balcones Single Malt won the Best in Glass competition, beating brands like Johnny Walker and Macallan. It became the first American distillery to win that competition. This stuff is the real deal, people. If you love great whiskey and bourbon at a great price, then Balcones products are the only way to go. The whiskey may be made in Texas, but the owners, they're from Oklahoma. To find a liquor store that has it, visit balconesdistilling.com. All right, for my winner of the week, thought about going with LIV Golf, man.
Yep.
Making waves. First, David Faraday leaving NBC to be an analyst on the LIV Golf broadcasts. And then Cam Smith wins the Open. And it only seems like a matter of days until an announcement that the number 2 golfer in the world is going to join LIV Golf. That's how it feels, at least to me.
Yeah. Yeah, he was pretty cryptic in his
It wasn't cryptic. He just was like, what did he say? You asked me, that's really not good.
That's probably the only thing he was thinking about the whole time is, what am I going to say? Yeah, it's wild. They continue to clip off some big names, important names from the golf world.
Yeah, so we'll see. But Cam Smith, number 2 in the world golf rankings. If he leaves for LIV, that's clearly a big deal, especially because he's a young dude.
What's the deal with Charles Barkley maybe leaving TNT to do that as well?
Well, I mean, he jokingly said he'd like kill one of his relatives for $200 million to play LIV. And they they are going after people, man, and they're offering them huge sums of money. And if you're Charles Barkley and they're going to give you, and I don't know what he makes from TNT, I assume he makes a ton on an annual basis, but you got to think all those nights they do TNT, especially during the playoffs, those late nights, and he's always complaining. He's like, let's go home. Like, and he's joking, but he's also being honest because he's Charles Barkley and he can say what he wants. If they're offering him like $100 million to do like 8 to 10 events for a couple days each, I mean, yeah, I get it, man.
How could you could never have convinced me that Charles Barkley would make as much money broadcasting with basketball as he has, like before it really got rolling. But now I totally get it. You seriously never could have convinced me that Charles Barkley would make $100 million broadcasting with golf, especially considering the swing that he's got. So if you could somehow cash in and be involved with that and make $100 million bucks, I guess I don't have much to say. I'd be sad because the Inside the NBA, I believe, is the best sports show there is. So that would suck.
That's what has me optimistic that he's not going to leave, is that show's just so damn good. TNT, they'll take care of him, but if they're throwing just insane money at him, I wouldn't be shocked. I really wouldn't, but we'll see. What we saw, who was it? Henrik Stenson gave up being captain of the Ryder Cup team. He's like, LIV Golf, here we go.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe I wish Charles Barkley, if he does it, I wish Shaq would go with him. I could watch just like a TV show that was just him and Shaq doing whatever, eating lunch, sitting in a room together. It doesn't matter. Those two guys in the same room, it's hilarious because they're either like laughing, they've got the best jokes of one another, or they're about to kill one another. It's the funniest thing ever.
Yeah. I also thought about going with Formula One as my winner of the week. Now, it really, there's nothing that has happened this week really, but
yeah, what I was up early on Sunday, raring to go.
You got to look at the schedule, Ted.
I know. I was like, of course, the one time I'm like thinking about it the night before, make it a point to get up and like, I'm going to watch it, is like the only bye week they've had in a long time.
Yeah. But NASCAR's changing stuff up, and I think it's got everything to do with Formula One. NASCAR announced a street race next July that will go through downtown Chicago and will have 12 turns. We got NASCAR cars turning, Ted.
Are they going to turn left 12 times, or are we going to add some right-handers in there too?
My hope is there's
what
some
would that be called? I mean, you've got an octagon, which is 8. What would be a 12 if you did that would be funny. But yes, probably some right-handers in there.
Yeah, we'll see. But I thought that was really interesting. But my winner of the week, and it's kind of the Mike Tyson thing kind of ties into it, but I guess that's Hulu. But my winner of the week is Netflix. Did you see the trailer for the Manti Te'o
no, I need
documentary?
to check it out.
Oh, they are Netflix put a trailer out for a Manti Te'o catfish documentary. The title is Untold: The Girlfriend Who Didn't Exist, and it has interviews with the person that pretended to be Lene Kakua. I cannot wait for this. This is going to be fantastic. And remember, the whole thing was his grandma and his girlfriend what died on the same night, and that was the inspiration for his senior year and all this stuff. So it's going to be fascinating. I will say this, though. I'm going to be really pissed if I'm in it because we've played him that year. And I've told this story before, but at the coin toss of our game against them in Norman in 2012, I like dapped him up and gave him a hug and told him we all were praying for him. Sorry for your loss, all that stuff before that game. I was trying to be a good guy, and I regret it. And when that report came out, I was like, I take it back, Manti. I didn't mean that. So, well, I really hope he wasn't mic'd up and I wasn't mic'd up for that game. I don't remember if I was or not, or if he was or not, but I really hope that's not in it. They didn't get my permission. So
you have, if that makes it, you have one person only to blame. And that'll be Chris Plank.
That's true.
Would have been
He's
out
always
there with
standing there at the coin
the
toss.
microphone right there at the official, and maybe even got it in there, maybe commented about it before he threw it back to Toby. So, well, he has to be in this documentary, right?
Oh yeah, no, like he's all in it. Interviews, the whole thing. Like it's going to be fascinating. I can't wait.
Yeah, because I've never heard like his side of it, which I can understand was brutal. Like he probably found out, but it was like everything had already like blown up by about the story. And like, at what point do you admit that you got catfished public? Like, it's just a horrible place to be. The fact that he continued to play the way that he did throughout that season with that hanging over his head is crazy.
Yeah. I can't wait for it. I'm pumped, but I better not be in it. We should have played better that night. Damn it. Okay. My loser of the week. I thought about going with people that are betting on USC to win the national title, because I saw that at the Superbook at Westgate, Las Vegas, USC has attracted more bets and more money to win the national title than any other team. And listen, it's not, this is not from bitterness. Lincoln just needs some time, man. I have no clue how people can think that USC is going to be on, even on the same level or even close to the same level as Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, even Oklahoma, right? Like, give that staff some time to build that roster and to develop their system, to like the culture. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. They were a good football team, and I know they did really well in the transfer portal. I understand that, but it just doesn't happen like that, man. These people just set your money on fire. Just set it on fire instead.
We have to be watching a massive propaganda scheme unfolding right before our eyes. But I don't know if national media is getting paid by Vegas to pump USC. If they've got like troll armies, like bot armies on social media that are amplifying what USC is going to do and how good they're going to be. But the fact that people are taking money and in mass quantities and betting it on USC to win the national championship for this season is absurdity at the highest level. It's craziness.
And it really, for me, it really doesn't have that much to do with USC. It's Bama and Georgia and Ohio State. Like, look at those rosters. Look, and the continuity of those coaching staffs. I have no idea how people think. Like, if I could choose one of those three teams to win the national title or the field, I'm probably taking those three teams. Just being honest.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
So I think USC, I think Lincoln Riley's going to get USC rolling. I do. I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to be a really, really good program under that staff, but it takes time.
I heard Stuart Mandel and Bruce Feldman, two college football guys that do really good work, say the qualification for a successful season this year for USC is to win the Pac-12.
Damn.
They're not going to win the Pac-12.
It takes time.
I think it's a crazy bet to bet on USC to win the Pac-12. And I don't think the Pac-12 is any good. I mean, Utah and Oregon are good. Everyone else is just very average. So, I don't know. Wild.
Yeah. But my loser of the week, the National League. Yeah, we're going to talk some baseball, baby, because I watched the entire All-Star game, and the National League now has lost 9 straight All-Star games. 9. And the NL, they scored 2 runs in the first inning, and then the rest of the game, 1 hit, end up losing 3-2. It was, I wish there would have been more runs scored. I wish there probably would have been fewer strikeouts. I think there were like 13 hits, and then there were like 22 strikeouts in the All-Star game. But I will say, Giancarlo Stanton hit that ball approximately 15 miles. I mean, did you see that picture of the point of contact with the ball compressed against the barrel of his bat?
I've seen that with a golf ball, and that makes sense. I've never seen that with a baseball. And I'm sure there's the million pictures out there of it, but I just personally have never seen that. That was crazy. And how, it looks like he barely swung at it. Whenever you see like the video of it, it's just so smooth and effortless. It's amazing. What was it, like 114 mile an hour exit velocity, something like that? Just crazy.
Yeah, like the fastest exit velocity since they've been measuring it in All-Star game stuff. I was like, yeah, duh. The guy hit the ball into the next town. But
I watched
thought
the whole thing. It was 3-2. I was just hoping that it was going to be tied and they could do the home run derby to decide it. I thought that's like the best idea ever. They should do every baseball game like that.
That's why the NL's my loser of the week. All you got to do is score 1 run.
1 run.
And we get what was it? I think it was 3 guys from the NL, 3 guys from the AL, and I think each guy gets 3 swings or something like that. Give us that drama. Score 1 more damn run, National League. Come on now. They robbed us of, I really thought that they were just going to kind of rig it to where that would happen, but I guess the AL had other ideas, man.
Yeah. I was hoping, I was like, hey, this thing's rigged. This is going to be awesome. But unfortunately didn't happen that way. But it was still entertaining. It was funny as hell when Ohtani got picked off at first. That was
funny. I like the mic'd up stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool, especially hearing pitchers and catchers talk about pitch selection. Alek Manoah, he played at West Virginia. So the reason I was like, I know that name. And him talking through, striking out the side in the second, like that was really cool. And he was talking to Smoltz out loud. And like, as he was throwing pitches, he was like, bye you. it was pretty great. I mean, there were some really entertaining components with the mic'd up stuff. I liked it.
Yeah, it was cool. Every time I watch that, I have a panic attack because I couldn't imagine trying to play a sport and have some guys like talking into my ear. Like it makes me like panic just thinking about it. Like trying to have that conversation and trying to play at the same time.
When you were playing in the NFL, did you have you had the headset in your helmet, right?
Yeah.
As the mic backer.
Mm-hmm.
Did that bother you?
No, because
it cuts off before
it's they just usually say at least at that point, all they did was say, I think it cut off at like, was it 17 seconds? I can't remember what it was, but they would just say the call. Maybe sometimes you'd get like a reminder on personnel or down a distance, or maybe tell someone to remember to line up or so. I mean, he was very just limited and quick.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
I'm expecting it, and I'm holding my because I hate like background noise, so I would like plug my ear holes so I could hear it better. Yeah, I'm not good with that.
I will say, I still think the Major League All-Star festivities are pretty cool, right? Watching Soto win the home run derby was a lot of fun. It would have been fun if Pujols made it to the final. That would have been a lot of fun.
That was cool. Yeah.
Watching Soto hit bombs after he had rejected the massive contract extension was pretty damn entertaining. But
I couldn't decide if Pujols was happy that he survived and advanced, or if he was like, "Oh,
I think
dang."
he looked at Schwarber and he was like, "Come on, man, I'm old. I don't need to be swinging this much." But I think out of all the All-Star games, like the MLB All-Star Game is great. I wish there would have been more runs scored, but one of the big advantages for baseball is it's not, and I'm not trying to make it sound like baseball isn't a really physical sport. I mean, there's some big athletic dudes playing baseball, but there's not the physical contact component like basketball, and certainly like football with what the Pro Bowl has become. That's the cool thing about the MLB All-Star Game is you're actually watching the guys play the game like they play it in the regular season. And yeah. I think that makes it very entertaining. It's why I like watching it.
No, it is cool. The frustrating part about it, and there's really not a way around it, is whenever you've got like 4 or 5 of the best pitchers that are going to throw in the game, and you only get like one at bat against each of them, it's good. It's not a very good,
not hitter friendly.
It's not hitter friendly at all, which, is kind of unfortunate. Like, what draws the ratings is going to be offense. I mean, the diehards love good pitching, and I love good pitching too, but you want to see some runs scored. It's not a very, like you said, not offensive friendly.
Yeah. No, but still
good.
Still good. All right. On that note, episode 233 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop Monday morning. Just a reminder, you can hear Ted from 3 to 6 on 94.7 The Ref. You can hear me on SiriusXM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Have a fantastic weekend. Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. And do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.